And a lot of the times doing so makes you feel really empty. Personally, I would much rather spend my 20s actually establishing a good relationship and finding a guy who I actually love and have something real with, as opposed to sleeping with a bunch of random guys, going out every night, partying, getting blackout drunk, and going home with someone new every night. Because if you spend all your 20s doing that, then you're going to be in your 30s trying to find good guys. And those good guys are most likely already going to be getting married to girls who were doing that stuff in their
That's
20s.
right.
So,
She's
this is
right.
just something to think about. I want all of you girls to have a happy, healthy life and not have regrets in your future. So, this is something that I've had to realize for myself, and I hope that you guys all realize it too and just decide what you want to do with your life.
You notice how she's like, look, I'm not telling you what you have to do. I'm not judging you. I had to do this too. There's this whole way we have to frame it and package it to be able to communicate it to other women. It's very sensitive. It's a very, very sensitive topic because of the way we are. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. But where did this come from? Does it remind us of anything in recent history that should scare the dickens out of you? Yes. I'm not trying to jump scare you guys. Okay, so this is kind of sort of part 2 of last Saturday's episode where we were talking about the Weimar Republic. Okay, so you don't have to go back and watch that just yet. You can finish watching this and then go back and watch last Saturday's if you haven't seen that one. But right where we were talking about the history of this part of the Weimar Republic, not all parts of it. Careful, careful, internet. I'm not stupid sharing the wrong things on the internet, on the YouTubes. It had just said that there were 10 divorces in Berlin per 100 marriages at this point in time. We're in the 1930s. As we get going, it'll nail down what year we're in, but it's in about the 1930s. And talking about how it was the destruction of the pair bond because women were kind of feeling a little afraid because of the hyperinflation in Germany at that time. So they felt insecure as far as how they were going to survive, be provided for, etc. It wasn't that normal for women to go out and work. And so they stopped choosing to trust the man they were with and to just go without. Women, we need to learn how to just go without sometimes. Sometimes you don't have everything you want. And it doesn't mean you get to just go over there to Franz, who does have what you want. So far in our story of the Weimar Republic, right now we've got Franz and Klaus. And so let's get back with where we were. Pick it up from where we were last time.
A contemporary sociological study of working-class women in Berlin, led by researcher Franziska Kramer, found a shocking admission. Over 60% of women interviewed admitted to having a Nutzfreund alongside their primary partner or husband. Their justification was not love or even lust. It was Sicherheit, security. But it was a new, terrifying form of security. Not the security of a home and a family, but the security of the next meal, the next pair of shoes, the next moment of pleasure to numb the overwhelming dread. This is the reliability you feel right now. This isn't ancient history. This is a pattern. When you see the rise of situationships over marriages, when you see the celebration of hot girl summers and the decline of stable family formation, you are not witnessing progress. You are witnessing the carnival masks. You are seeing the same psychological script being performed on a different stage. The music is different, the technology is different, but the underlying human impulse is identical, the frantic, hedonistic flight from a future that feels like a threat. But where does this leave a man like Klaus, or a man like you? This is where the story turns from diagnosis to a flicker of inspiration, because some men did not break. Some men saw the carnival for what it was and refused to wear the mask. They understood that in a world of hysterical femininity and inverted values, the ultimate rebellion was to become unshakably, unapologetically masculine. Not the brutish masculinity of the street brawler, but the grounded, stoic masculinity of the oak tree in the hurricane.
Does this sound familiar? I bet a lot of you didn't realize that there was kind of this group of men like you back then. And there was probably the same during the fall of the Roman Empire. Many of these empires, many of these civilizations, societies, as they fell, they saw a similar trend. And a lot of it was, perversion, promiscuity. And in order for there to be promiscuity, the women have to be saying yes, right? It's just, we're the gatekeepers of that. So let's see what these men did.
They turned inward. They focused on building a fortress of the self. While the world partied on the edge of the abyss, these men were training their bodies, studying philosophy, and mastering practical skills that had value beyond the collapsing currency. They were becoming real in a world that had chosen the fake. They found a new kind of joy, not in the external validation of a society that was dying, but in the internal satisfaction of personal sovereignty. This is the path we will explore next. We have seen the problem, the great deregulation, and the carnival masks. But the most critical part of the Weimar blueprint is not the collapse itself. It is the male response that ultimately determines whether a man is consumed by the fire or forged by it. But this inward turn had a dark and inevitable consequence. The men who refused the mask soon found themselves pitted against a new, terrifying force, a force that the decaying society in its desperation would soon unleash upon them. Now, we will expose the third stage of the blueprint, the betrayal imperative, and reveal the shocking historical document that proves how the state itself will weaponize female nature against the very men it can no longer control.
That's the whole purpose. It's not like to destroy dating or to pit the Democrats against the Republicans. And if you think that, you're thinking too small. This is a bigger battle. And so many of you have already come to realize that, if you didn't already, that it's a battle between good and evil. And we are being weaponized against you. That is why they feed the division. That is why they feed us the propaganda. Same type of propaganda as the serpent, Satan, in the garden. And who did he target again? Who did he want to get at? Adam. Who did he target to get at Adam? Same story. There's nothing new under the sun.
The carnival could not last. The music was always destined to stop. For the men who had chosen the path of inner fortitude, who had built a fortress of the self while the world danced, a new and more dangerous phase of the collapse began to dawn. This is the third and most devastating stage of the Weimar blueprint, the betrayal imperative. We left our archetypal man, Klaus, in the shadows, a relic of a dead world, while his wife Greta sought refuge in the transient arms of the speculator Franz. But Klaus's story is not over. It is about to take a darker turn. Imagine his mindset now. The initial shock of his economic devaluation has hardened into a cold, simmering resentment. He no longer expects fairness from the system. He sees the corruption, the lies, the sheer transactional desperation in every interaction. He begins to withdraw, not just from the economy, but from society itself. This is not a quiet retreat. It is a strategic disengagement born of profound disillusionment. And it is at this precise moment of male withdrawal that the decaying system, sensing its most stable elements opting out, triggers a survival mechanism of its own. It must bring these men to heel or eliminate them. And to do this, it weaponizes the most powerful social force at its disposal: female loyalty. This is not a conspiracy of mustache-twirling villains in a back room. It is an organic, sociological imperative. A system that has lost the voluntary allegiance of its men must compel their compliance, and the most efficient tool for this compulsion is the manipulation of the women in their lives. Let us return to Greta. The initial thrill of the carnival has worn thin. The silk stockings from Franz have runs in them. The champagne headaches are more frequent. The reality of her situation is setting in. She is adrift, tied to a man of hollow spectacle in a world that is becoming increasingly dangerous. The political violence on the streets is escalating. The communists and the National Socialists are clashing with increasing ferocity.
Does any of this sound familiar?
The tangible security Franz offered is now revealed as an illusion. His wealth is just as precarious as everything else. And here, a deep biological panic begins to set in. The survivalist hypergamy that propelled her toward the speculator now, faced with a new kind of threat, one of outright chaos and physical violence, seeks a new anchor. But Klaus, the man she left in the dust, has changed. His resentment has forged him. He is colder, stronger, more physically capable. He's been spending his time not in dance halls, but in training with the Freikorps veterans, or simply hardening his body and mind. He represents a different kind of security now. Not the security of money, but the security of primal physical protection.
Okay. You're always like, why do they like the bad boys? Why do women like the bad boys? Why do felons have more children than normal, regular men? I think if you look through time, not only are we allowed to do that, we don't have our fathers stopping us, but the fact that women are seeking out these types of men who don't even have jobs, so they're not going towards these men for financial stability. So, what do they like about them? Those men are dangerous, right? Those men, according to us, through our eyes, look like they would fight, look like they could handle themselves. And the women are going towards that. Does that mean that that's what you should become? No, but it explains it a lot. I also find it very interesting that, Franz was, going to the gym and becoming tough, etc. And you see that a lot with the MGTOW guys and some of the Gen Z conservatives. In fact, did you know that working out was white supremacy or something like that? One of their terms. It's bad, right? It's bad when you are developing yourself and thinking for yourself. You are then a threat. Therefore, you must be labeled as such. You're an ist, an ism, or an obia. We have got to disenfranchise you immediately because you're a threat. You think for yourself. You start thinking for yourself. Well, Charlie Kirk had started thinking for himself. It didn't turn out well.